of the day. Today we asked, should we smack our children when they're naughty? In the last couple of decades, it's become almost a sin to smack children. But why? And could it make a non-judgmental comeback? In early 2020, a controversial law change in Wales was passed, which allows for the prosecution of parents for smacking their children. The Senedd is set to launch a public awareness campaign, as the law will change on the 21st of March 2021, or did change. So should parents be reported to the police for smacking their children? Well, here to look at this issue is Farrow, who's a journalist and writer specialising in Catholicism and feminism. Thank you so much for joining us. Some might say we've become quite soft on issues of disciplining children, and, you know, children should be smacked now and again. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm not a huge fan of smacking children, I'll be honest, but I am very concerned about a law that will criminalise, you know, good and loving parents. And I think it's quite right. Children, we have to look at context. So obviously no one is suggesting that children should be brutalised, you know, the old-fashioned, your dad will take his belt to you. And that's already illegal, I think, certainly in the UK and well, yeah, in England, Scotland and Wales. You know, nobody wants to see children beaten, children brutalised. But there is a difference between kind of focused violence and then the odd slap. So I think what I'm concerned about is a state saying this is the right way to raise children. I think it's, you know, none of the state's business, actually, if a mum or a dad wants to give their child a slap. And I also think, you know, we're turning into a nation of snitches. We've seen this already, you know, with sort of COVID regulations. Are you going to, you see a frazzled mum in a supermarket, you know, her child hasn't listened to reason or whatever and is pulling stuff on the shelves, off the shelves, sorry, and she gives her child a slap.
Yeah.
Are we going to report that, you know, frazzled mum to the police?
Because this, so the law comes into effect on the 21st of March 2022, not 21, and it's all types of physical punishment. This is in Wales: smacking, hitting, slapping, shaking, made illegal. I mean, this seems really extreme. I think you're right in terms of actually criminalising parents for what could be very good parents for disciplining their children. Why have they gone down this road, do you think?
I think it's, you know, I mean, it's very bad law. It's very difficult to say. I think it's, you know, possibly because it's, you know, very left-leaning government, and the left-leaning, you know, point of view is very much, you know, your children belong to the state, and, you know, they want to kind of chip away at family responsibilities. But actually, it's interesting. I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say you should always smack children, but I leave it up to the parents' discretion. I was having a discussion with someone about this, you know, a few weeks ago, who was saying that in some ways, you know, the more popular method of disciplining children, like time out, is actually in some ways more psychologically damaging, because you're saying to a child, you're not welcome, you're excluded from this family, you're not a part of things until you sort of change your behaviour. Now, you know, for some children, you know, they may find that very traumatic. Sometimes a slap is very quick, it's over and done with, you know, and you know, the child gets on with life. And I think particularly when you're dealing with much smaller children, so, you know, a child that's about to put themselves in danger, about to run into the road, about to put their hand in the fire, sometimes, you know, quick tap will stop them, will get them out of danger, you know, like a short, sharp shock. So I think we have to be very careful, as I said before, about context and not sort of brutal, you know, not criminalising, you know, good parents.
And the ambiguities here seem particularly concerning. I mean, obviously, I think everyone would oppose outright abuse, but the idea that, and there are some sort of children who do like to get a bit naughty, who do, particularly maybe in early adolescence, like to rebel against their parents. We could well be seeing something really quite serious here, where unbeknownst to them, a child complains, oh, my parents have been hitting me, and that can really get parents into some really serious trouble, changing the balance of power in that relationship completely.
That's absolutely right, and I think, you know, parents, it's a very difficult balance, because of course children have rights, and children must be able to speak up when they feel, you know, they're being abused or brutalised, and, you know, and children must be listened to. But there is, as you say, there's a real kind of balance there, in that, you know, unfortunately some children are manipulative, some children are naughty, you know, and some children may well make things up. And the thing is, I think one of the reasons this is a very bad law is that it's not really enforceable. Because, okay, you might know that there's a law stopping you from, you know, giving your child a smack in the supermarket, but actually, you know, it's very difficult to enforce in the home. And when you're talking about, say, very young children, you know, a 3 or a 4-year-old isn't really going to report if, you know, mum gave them a smack or whatever. So how do you have a law which, you know, a law that's really unenforceable is very bad law, and also it's a law that brings the state into people's homes, into people's sort of personal parenting choices in a very kind of intrusive way. And as I said, this isn't about, I'm not defending anybody who takes an implement to their child. That's illegal. It's illegal to, you know, hurt your child in a way that will leave a mark or whatever. And of course, you know, emotional abuse can be just as bad as physical abuse. So, but we already have the Children's Act. We already have safeguarding protections in place. And I think this is just the state going a little bit too far.
I suppose what the Labour Party in Wales would say, and the First Minister Mark Drakeford would say, is that there are some children who are genuinely in danger, some parents who just don't know how to parent. And maybe, in this case, the state does need to set some boundaries and the state does know better.
Well, yes, yes and no. In that, yes, there are some sort of neglectful parents, or even parents who have chaotic lives and who need some help and support. But this is why we have safeguarding departments in schools. And very often, you know, a child who has a parent who is, you know, handy with the physical violence, there will be other issues going on, and the school will be aware. It might be that, you know, the parent is difficult on parents' evenings, or I say difficult, but do you know what I mean? Schools sort of are looking at the child as a whole, you know, and also we have in this country, you know, there are so many cases at the moment, particularly, you know, after lockdown, of children with very bad mental health. Actually, I think social workers and safeguarding departments have got a lot more to be concerned about, you know, children in poverty, than a mum or dad that occasionally gives their child a little slap on the bottom, you know?
No, I think many viewers will agree with you there. And remember, do send us your views, gbviews@gbnews.uk, and we'll be sure to have a look at them throughout the rest of the programme.
Yes, indeed. We're coming up to the top of the hour in a second, but somebody's already got in touch on this issue. Robert has said, it seems there are more and more things we mustn't do to our children. Maybe the answer is to just not have children, which does seem like a bit of an extreme reaction to that. But keep your views coming in, of course, on this and anything else we've been talking about.
I do wonder, this does seem like a bit of an agenda, doesn't it? I mean, there's Harry and Meghan saying they'll only have one child, the Chinese having that one-child policy. Is this just the Labour government in Wales wanting no one to have children at all?
Yes.
I'm not going to get into those conspiracies, but we will. That's just a joke. But we will be back with you with many more stories in the next hour. Keep all your thoughts coming in, of course, gbviews@gbnews.uk, and we'll be back with more of those top stories and plenty of your views after these short messages.
Hi there.